What's up, Flannelverse? Apologies for the delay. I was changing the layout for this and got a little bit lost in the time trying to perfect it. Didn't quite get there. Didn't quite perfect it, but I think it looks a little bit better than it did before. A little bit more of the screen there, so you can see what I'm doing. I was covering up too much of the screen. If you could like the video and subscribe to the channel, I would very much appreciate it. Trying to get to 6,000 subscribers by the end of the NFL season. In this video, I'm going to be breaking down the Thursday Night Football slate for DraftKings primarily. Going to be going position by position, starting with quarterbacks, running backs. You can see right below me. Quarterbacks, running backs, wide receivers, tight ends, defenses, and kickers. And then I will be taking any questions, playing with lineups, and running the Sims. These shows are sponsored by Run the Sims this year. Fantastic product. I've been loving it so far. You can use promo code Neil to get 10% off your first payment of any product at Run the Sims. So check that out. All right, let's get into it. So we're going to start again with quarterbacks. Don't want to waste a lot of time here. Do want to say appreciate all of you being here. Always appreciate you guys showing up for these shows. You don't have to be here. You choose to be with me, and I very much appreciate that. We're going to start with the quarterbacks. We'll start at the top here with the Commanders. Jaden Daniels is, I think, the best play on the slate. I mean, I think Jaden Daniels just kind of a no-brainer. I think when we run the Sims, we're going to get to 90+%. I ran them earlier. I made a short little video on how to use Run the Sims, by the way, if anybody's still learning how to use it. I'm still learning. I've used it for 1 week, so I'm sure I will get better over time. But I think I've got a pretty good handle on how things work. And I made a short video on how to do that. If you're interested, I was getting to 90+% Jaden Daniels. Even after I adjusted some things that maybe would have made him look worse, I was still getting to just a ton of Jaden Daniels. So hard to argue. He's a rushing quarterback, should score a lot of points tonight on the ground, through the air. All the points go through Jaden, not all of them, but a lot of the points on the Commanders go through Jaden Daniels. I should note Jaden Daniels, because he runs so much, totally willing to play him anywhere in my lineup unstacked. I still like to have him stacked up when he's in the captain spot. He's just, he runs enough that you can play him anywhere without any kind of stack and just hope that he, racks up fantasy points on the ground rather than throwing to his teammates. I will have, I think, a mix of Jaden Daniels lineup. So I'm going to have unstacked in the captain spot. I imagine I'll have some multi-stacks where he is stacked up with 2-3 teammates in the flex when I have him a captain. Then, of course, I'll have him all over my lineups. I'm going to get to a lot of him using the Sims. I'm probably just going to accept that I'm going to have a lot of him. I'll probably try to get below 90% if I can, just because I like to spread out my risk. But again, I'm using the Shady Portfolio Optimizer, which is trying to mitigate risk and still getting to 90+%. So he's just that good of a play. Tough to argue too much with Jaden Daniels. On the other side, we have Jordan Love. Let me scroll down here. Jordan Love is 10,000, projected for 51% flex ownership, 14% captain ownership. I imagine I'm going to come in under these numbers on Jordan Love, just because we don't have the salary to pay for everybody that we want in our lineups. And I really like Jaden Daniels. I really like Josh Jacobs. I really like several options here. So I imagine I'm going to be a little bit underweight on Jordan Love. Commanders' pass defense was pretty good towards the end of last year. At the beginning of the year, we were targeting them. They were a defense that we would just always want to play passing games against. By the end of the year, they were one of the best pass defenses in the NFL. I think that's holding so far this year. We'll see if they're able to shut down the Packers, who are pretty good. But I think I'm going to be underweight on Jordan Love. Also worth noting, though, the Packers were actually like 5th in neutral pass rate last week, which is kind of an unexpected. Like last year, they were a pretty run heavy team. This year, they started off being fairly pass heavy in neutral situations. Now, that's a really small sample size. They didn't have a ton of neutral situations last week, but worth noting that they were actually a lot pass happier last week than they were last year. And Josh Jacobs actually took a little dip as a result of that last week. If not for that touchdown, would not have had much of a game. With that said, I'm still playing it as though they're going to get back to what they were doing last year. So I'm going to be more into Josh Jacobs. Good note here from Hulk Smash Potatoes. Packers down 2 offensive linemen. I still think they're going to be pretty good. They're top 10 offensive line in the NFL. Maybe they drop down a little bit. Maybe I need to account for it more, but I think they're still a pretty strong offensive line there for the Packers. But I'm going to be, again, playing under the field on Jordan Love. When I do have Jordan Love in my lineups, I would like to have him stacked up regardless of where he is. And if I have him in the captain spot, I want him to be stacked up most of the time with multiple pass catchers in the flex. Again, because the way quarterbacks score every time they throw the ball, whoever catches the ball outscores them. If they're too concentrated on one pass catcher, they end up getting outscored by that pass catcher. Now, the Packers might be the kind of offense that is spread out enough that Jordan Love could be viable at the captain spot with just one pass catcher in the flex. Certainly possible, and I will include Josh Jacobs as one of those pass catchers. If you're like setting a rule in your optimizer, I would include Josh Jacobs as one of those pass catchers if you are requiring multiple. But just worth noting that they might spread the ball around enough that he could be optimal with, just one pass catcher in the flex when he's in the captain spot. So worth noting there. It worked out on Monday night. The Bears defense, it was painful for me to give that advice to play the Bears defense and JJ McCarthy. Doesn't happen, all that frequently that it works out. But yeah, that seemed like a pretty good spot for it with the Bears defense being 3,400. All right, let's move on from quarterbacks. Again, probably a little bit underweight on Jordan Love. Going to be having all the Jaden Daniels. And then I'll tell you who the other payups are that I like. I'll move this down to the running backs tab. So now we're going to move on to pretty interesting situation here for the Commanders. We've got Ja'Cory Croskey-Merritt is 7,000. Austin Eckler is 6,800. Run the Sims projecting Ja'Cory Croskey-Merritt for 11% flex ownership, 1% captain ownership. Austin Eckler for 28% flex ownership and 3% captain ownership. Now, if we go to Roto-Grinders, I just kind of want to, cross-check the numbers here because it's a really interesting decision point between Ja'Cory Croskey-Merritt and Austin Eckler. At Roto-Grinders, Ja'Cory Croskey-Merritt projected for, they're both projected for 3% captain ownership, like exact same captain ownership. And then the flex ownership, Croskey-Merritt 21%, Eckler 22%. So they're kind of projected for the same ownership at RG, which is kind of more in line with my assumptions here. I'm curious to hear what you guys think. Let me know what you think of how the ownership is going to come in, and let me know who you think you're going to play, because that might be a good indication as well. Maybe I should put a poll up. Yeah, I'm actually going to put a poll up in chat. So if you want to, if I can figure out how to do it quickly. Give me 1 second here. I haven't done this on one of these streams before, but I'm very curious. I feel like this is one of these things that's going to be kind of telling of what we want to do. So let me try to put a poll up here in YouTube chat real quick. Start a poll. We're going to say, are you playing more of JCM or Eckler? All right. I'm going to throw this out there. There we go. I put a poll into chat. Let me know who you are more interested in playing tonight. Now, also my audience might be pretty different than the general public. If some of you may have watched my show with Adam earlier, maybe we'll taint your opinion a little bit anyway. But my instinct is that people are going to be more excited about playing Ja'Cory Croskey-Merritt tonight. He's the flashy rookie that is just hyped, like getting so much hype right now. People are so excited to have him on their fantasy teams, and you can't really blame him. He was really good in his first start. 10 carries for 82 yards. So what am I doing here? Scored a touchdown. Everything looked really good for Ja'Cory Croskey-Merritt, except for the workload is actually not that great in week one. 29% of snaps, as you can see here, just 10 carries. Now, taking them for 82 yards, the assumption is he's going to earn more of the workload here and get more than 10 carries in most games if he continues to look like he did last week. He just looked dominant last week. Only 7.2 expected fantasy points last week. Only ran 5 routes. That's 13.5% route participation. Only saw 1 target. So that's kind of the downside, is only 1 target. Like, you being involved in the passing game, if you're not Derrick Henry, really helpful. I mean, it's helpful for if you are Derrick Henry too, I suppose. But like most running backs are really reliant on some of that passing game involvement. And we just didn't see it last week for JCM. So that's my big concern there. If he comes in I'll say this: if Ja'Cory Croskey-Merritt comes in at 11% flex ownership and 1% captain ownership, I would absolutely love that. I would want to be over the field on Ja'Cory Croskey-Merritt at those numbers. My expectation is that both Ja'Cory Croskey-Merritt and Austin Eckler are going to be over 20% owned. Like I just have, I struggle to see how he comes in this low, given all the hype surrounding him, given that he might be a starting running back and he's only 7,000. So I'm just not totally buying this. And these are also, by the way, not actually run the Sims. They didn't make these ownership numbers. These are they import these ownership numbers from a data provider. But my expectation is that it's actually going to be pretty evenly split and maybe closer to what RG has. I wouldn't be surprised though if Ja'Cory Croskey-Merritt actually ends up closer to like 30% owned, somewhere like that, which at that point I would want to be under the field. Again, this is DraftKings PPR scoring. I don't think he's going to be that involved in the passing game. I think the Packers have a pretty good run defense, like kind of middle of the road. I don't think it's like an elite passing defense. Maybe we'll see. But I think they're good enough that without the passing game involvement, you need a touchdown for him to get there, I think. Unless he really does increase the volume too. Maybe he does take on more of that workload. Maybe they really believe in him and decide to run the ball more. So I could end up being wrong about this, but I don't think. Yeah, this is interesting. Accuracy says, I'm a Skins fan. Word on the street is that they're going to use Ja'Cory more tonight and give him more carries than last week. I mean, they've been saying that he's going to. There have been rumors that he's going to take over the lead back role there as the season progresses, and he was good enough last week. It wouldn't be that surprising to see him take on more of the workload this week. I just don't think he's going to take the passing game work. So ultimately, I actually prefer Austin Eckler myself if they do come in at the same ownership, because I think Eckler's range of outcomes is just a little bit better. I think the floor is like easily higher with the passing game involvement. Like you really need a touchdown or just a monster yardage game for Ja'Cory Croskey-Merritt to get there, whereas Eckler can just get there on receptions. He can, score 5 fantasy points with 5 receptions. Okay, right now the poll is at 65% playing Eckler, 35% playing JCM. So as of right now, 66 votes into it. And okay, still it's changing minute by minute. But as of right now, it does appear that Eckler is going to get more of the ownership. I'm just not, Offsuit says he projects so poorly, so I don't know that he comes in much higher. Yeah, he might not. I might be overestimating the number of people that are not using projections as a primary source of their numbers. I think it'll be at least closer than these projections are at. So Eckler and Eckler, I guess you can play regardless of whether you like Ja'Cory Croskey-Merritt. I think Eckler is a strong play because of that PPR upside. And then maybe they just run the ball a little bit more. Maybe Eckler, maybe they keep, maybe JCM gets 14 carries, but Eckler could also still get 8, and they just run the ball a little bit more. And then instead of 3 targets for Eckler, maybe he gets 6. I don't know. I think there are ways for both of them to potentially get there. But I think I like Austin Eckler's range of outcomes a little bit better because he could just get, 5 catches in the game, a few more carries. He could score the touchdown. I think I like it a little bit better. But with that said, I don't hate Ja'Cory Croskey-Merritt in this game either. He is, I think, going to get the most carries for the team. I think that is the likeliest scenario. And last week he got exactly half of their running back carries. Maybe he gets more than that this week. He probably earned a bigger role here. Of course, there's still going to be Jaden Daniels getting some of the carries, so it's not a huge number of carries for the running back group in general. But if he earns more, he earns it. So we'll see there. All right. Hang on, get back here. So yeah, the projections have it 28% to 11%, 1% to 3%. My guess is that both are in the 20 to 30% flex ownership range. And I think at the very least, Croskey-Merritt going to be closer to 5%, I would think, captain ownership. I do not do ownership projections, so I should give that caveat of I'm just kind of talking out of my ass, just kind of my expectations. I haven't done any kind of projecting here, and these are more advanced formulas, but that's kind of my instinct, is just that Ja'Cory Croskey-Merritt probably comes in a little bit higher here. The cool thing with Run the Sims is I can just change those numbers, and it's going to change how much I get of them anyway. So if that's my instinct, I can, with an optimizer, I would just kind of make that assumption, boost the projection based on that assumption. But instead here, I can just change the ownership number and play with it that way. Beyond those two, we have Jeremy McNichols. He's 2,800. Wasn't super involved last week. Played just 12 snaps. I guess Croskey-Merritt only played 19. 4 carries. He had some workload last week. He could score a touchdown, but 4 carries, only ran 4 routes, didn't see a target, and probably Croskey-Merritt earned a bigger role here. I think he's viable. If I get to a few percent of McNichols, I'd be fine with that. But he's not a priority for me. Not somebody that I'm going to force into my lineups. If I get 0, I think I'm just going to accept 0 because at his price tag, even if he scores a short touchdown, not guaranteed to make the winning lineup. All right. Yeah, I mean that is an interesting note that they have 2 starters out. I don't know how concerned are you guys? I guess I still think that that they're going to run it like constantly. I saw Scott Barrett put out a tweet. I'll move on now. This is a good opportunity to move on to the Packers run game. Scott Barrett put out a tweet that the Commanders intentionally force their opposition to run, and he's expecting them to do that quite a bit tonight. That they're going to try to get them to attack with Josh Jacobs rather than the passing game. That's kind of my expectation tonight, that the Packers will want to do that anyway. I think they want to establish it here. Josh Jacobs is expensive, $10,600, projected for 45% flex ownership, 18% captain ownership. But I think this is a really strong spot for Josh Jacobs. Again, last week they were pass heavier than they tend to be. I don't think that that's something that I'm expecting to hold here. I think that they're going to run a bit more. Now, the Commanders did give up the 8th fewest schedule adjusted fantasy points per game to running backs last year. But I think that that's honestly just a fluky thing. I think they're going to be running it quite a bit. And I think that they should, to try to keep the Commanders off the field. I just had a recollection as we were. I didn't mention this when we were talking about the Commanders. I don't know what to make. These are last year's numbers, so maybe not that impactful anyway, but worth noting that last year, the Packers run defense allowed the 14th fewest schedule adjusted fantasy points per game to running backs, but they did allow the 4th most through the air. Another, kind of a benefit to Eckler, if that's kind of a schematic thing, that they did allow more fantasy points through the air than they did on the ground last year relative to other defenses. Just a little note there. It could certainly, people bringing up the O-line there for the Packers. Yeah, it's a concern. It's a big concern whenever offensive players are out. I mean, whenever starters are out in general, often it's a pretty big downgrade. So it is definitely a concern there to have multiple out in the offensive line. I guess I didn't go over the inactives. Chris Rodriguez also inactive again this week for the Commanders, so we don't have to worry about him. Let me check the full inactives. Give me 1 second here. I assume Chris Moore is active, right? We knew Micah Parsons, I was assuming, was going to be active. Oh, I see. What is going on here? Packers trolling us. They tweeted out today's inactives with an arrow and then did not put the inactives below it. So I don't know if we have the Packers inactives. I'm very confused. But yeah, Micah Parsons in. Okay, Zane Anderson, Bo Melton is out. Ben Sims is out. Okay. Good to know. I usually check this before I come on. Chris Rodriguez out. He looks like he's the only impactful player. Okay, good to know. We're up. Or I should say fantasy relevant player. Yeah, so I think Packers are going to want to keep the Commanders off the field. I think they want to run with Josh Jacobs anyway. I think he's due for a lot of work tonight. I like him at 10,600. I think I'm going to be above. So this is 63% total ownership on Josh Jacobs. I think I probably end up coming in above that number based on the sims that I've run so far. And I don't think I'm trying to get away from that one with Josh Jacobs. Chris Brooks, 400. I think he's a fine play. Like we don't have any like awesome cheap plays under 1,000. We have a lot of low price, but like kind of mid low price players that I like quite a bit. I think Chris Brooks is one of the best plays under 1,000. Project for 9% flex ownership, 0% captain ownership. If we look at his workload from last week, not exactly elite. But he second on the Packers. He had one carry, ran two routes, saw a target. If they do run it a little bit more, he probably gets a little more work. So I think that he is a fine backup running back play. And then, of course, you always, with the backup running backs, you have the awesome contingent upside. If anything were to happen to Josh Jacobs, then yeah, he's going to look awesome. So, has a little bit of standalone value. If there's a blowout, he probably comes in. And then also an injury to Josh Jacobs in the first half, suddenly he looks awesome. Did I do? I did a Canadian oot. All right, my bad. Try not to let the accent get out there too much. Okay. And then Emmanuel Wilson, I don't think I'm going to get there. A little bit too expensive. If I get some couple shares in the Sims, not going to like tell it not to do it, but not going to force my way to any Emmanuel Wilson. All right, that's it for the running backs. Let's move on to the receivers. So far, big fan of Jaden Daniels, big fan of Josh Jacobs, kind of big fan of Austin Eckler. And then from there, it's like, yeah, Ja'Cory Croskey-Merritt. I would love him if he comes in 11% owned. I'm not buying it. So I don't think I'm going to get a ton over the field there. All right, on to wide receivers. Let me pull up the data suite for this also. Let's go to advanced receiving. Just kind of look at the participation numbers from last week. All right, let's load. All right, we'll start up top with the Commanders again. And I'll sort here by route participation. So at the top, we have, Terry McLaurin, 9,000 projected for 38% flex ownership, 5% captain ownership. I love this 5% captain ownership number. I think I'd like to get above that number, maybe get to double, 10, 15% Terry McLaurin captain would be awesome. I'd be very happy with that number. This is one area where I don't really know how to do this in the Sims other than running multiple sets of Sims, which I don't think I'm going to have time to do tonight. I think that would be the way to do it. If you wanted to force in more Terry McLaurin at captain and less in the flex, I think that would be the way to do it, is to run multiple sim sets and download the ones with him captain, and then do a new set. But I'm not gonna have time to do that tonight. So that would be my preference. I don't know that I'm gonna be able to like tell the Sims to get to more in the captain spot than in the flex. I'm not that advanced yet. But that would be my preference. 38% in the flex, 5% captain. My preference would be to be overweight in the captain spot, probably slightly underweight in the flex. I don't know. Well, I'd be fine with 38%. I don't think that number is too high. Terry McLaurin, of course, is coming back from holding out, which is a concern. Like that's something that has been an issue, for many players in the past. When they hold out, they have kind of a dip in production at the start of the season, and we're kind of seeing that. We saw that in week one. Talked to Derek Brown. He was saying that he thinks that Terry McLaurin was just shadowed in week one, and that was really the reason that he struggled. So it could be that he was shadowed. It could be that he held out. Kind of needs to get on the same page as Jaden Daniels. But certainly in week two, another week removed, could be in for a bigger game here. The Packers secondary is, Jair Alexander is gone, so the Packers secondary a little bit weaker, or at least they haven't played together as much as they had last year, which is certainly strong. So I like Terry McLaurin quite a bit here, particularly in the captain spot, but I think he's a strong play across the board here. As I just showed, he ran 83.8% route participation last week, only saw 4 targets, but again, he was shadowed. He was coming back after holding out, so maybe another week he'll build a little more chemistry and have more opportunities tonight. Deebo Samuel had an awesome first game, really good sign for him on the Commanders. He's 8,600 here, projected for 35% flex ownership, 11% captain ownership. Last week we saw him, he only ran 78.4% of routes, but he had 10 targets. You can also see here the ADOTs. So last week, Terry McLaurin's ADOT 19.3. I think it was like 13 or 14 last year. So really high ADOT for Terry McLaurin last week. And then Debo Samuel, ADOT of 7.1 with his 10 targets. I do see that as a somewhat concern for Terry McLaurin going forward, that he might just lose some of the short intermediate stuff and just become more of a field stretcher, which, he retains a really high ceiling. But my concern is that he might lose some of his floor and a little bit of the ceiling as well. If he's not getting that shorter stuff, you just don't get quite as many receptions. So it is a concern for me that he potentially loses some of that shorter stuff. I would like him to, be running both, get some of the shorter stuff and the longer stuff. But I think it's possible that Debo Samuel eats into that somewhat. I think that's sort of what the numbers show us here. We don't know for sure. This is a very small sample size. Hopefully, Terry does start getting some of that shorter stuff as well. But it is worth noting that this is a concern right now, that Debo might just be taking away some of that shorter work from Terry McLaurin. But as far as Debo goes, you love to see it. I mean, 10 targets with just a 7 ADOT. That's it's easy fantasy points for Debo. He scored a touchdown. They're trusting him to be kind of the yak guy, great at breaking tackles. And I think he only got one carry last week, if I'm remembering correctly. Actually, I can look that up real quick. Where do I do? Oh, this is running back. Okay, I can't put in receivers here. I think it was not a ton there, but he's certainly always capable of being involved in the running game also. So I do like Debo Samuel here. Honestly, no issues with these numbers. 35% flex, 11% captain. I think I'm good with both of those numbers. I do really like Noah Brown and Jalen Lane as kind of contrarian options. Noah Brown projected for 18% ownership in the flex, 1% at captain. I like that. Jalen Lane, just 3% ownership overall at 1,600. Both were out there last week. Noah Brown, 51.4% route participation, saw 3 targets. Jalen Lane, 35.1% and 2 targets. Wouldn't be surprised to see either of them get a little bit more work this week. Now, we did see Chris Moore is active, so maybe he retains that role also. But Noah Brown was injured. Wouldn't surprise me if he gets a little bit more work as we get into the season. But I think both are strong plays at relatively low ownership and low price tags. It's because we have some other strong options that are relatively low priced, so it's harder to get to these guys who have lesser roles. But I still think Noah Brown in particular, wouldn't be surprised to see a higher route participation this week. The price is fine there. Could get some more targets. So I like Noah Brown. But Jalen Lane is just kind of a dart throw. I mean, 3% projected ownership. I'd like to get to 10%. I think that's definitely a number that I'd like to get on top of there. I don't think I get to Chris Moore tonight. Again, he's another one. If the Sims give me some, fine, I'll play it. But I definitely will force my way onto some Jalen Lane and Noah Brown if I'm not getting too much. I think both are pretty strong plays at low ownership here. On the Packers side, we have Romeo Doubs at just 4,000, projected for 50% flex ownership, 8% captain ownership. He was actually the lead receiver in terms of route participation last week, and he's just 4,000 somehow. So we had Tucker Kraft was the lead overall, but Romeo Doubs, 65.2% route participation, saw 4 targets. You probably remember Jordan Love was asked, who would you put on your team if you're putting together a dream team? This is the only Packers receiver he put onto his dream team. He loves his Romeo Doubs. So yeah, I think Romeo Doubs is an objectively strong play. He's too cheap. He is getting quite a bit of ownership, so I anticipate that I'm going to be underweight to Romeo Doubs and overweight on some of the other cheaper options, just because the ownership is so high. And honestly, even though he was the lead receiver, still only 65% route participation, 4 targets. It's not like this is an elite workload, can't fail kind of situation. He's probably going to pay off, but certainly can fail or just kind of be kind of mid where there are other better options. So I think I come in underweight on 58% Romeo Doubs, but not by that much. I think he's an objectively strong play. Then you have Jaden Reed is 8,200, projected for 21% flex ownership, 2% captain ownership. I don't love this one as much. Only 52.2% route participation last week. He did see 5 targets, but he's expensive. He is hurt, so I don't think that route participation is coming up. I think it's more likely to come down. I think there's some re-aggravation risk with Jaden Reed from what I have read. So I think these numbers are fine. Actually, the 2% captain is kind of intriguing to me. But I think overall 23%, I probably come in underweight on Jaden Reed and just make, that all these other Packers receivers are cheaper and honestly in pretty similar roles. I do think Jaden Reed is talented, but I also think that he is hurt. And I think it might affect his play a bit. So going to be somewhat underweight on Jaden Reed, but admittedly, it's scary. He's a talented receiver. Matthew Golden, I like quite a bit. 6,400 projected for just 10% flex ownership, 1% captain ownership. Didn't have an awesome role in his first game, only 43.5% route participation. Two targets, but he was hurt in that game. I think we're going to see those numbers come up here for Matthew Golden. I think he's a really talented receiver. Wouldn't be that surprising if by the end of the year he is the top dog in Green Bay. Could happen as soon as tonight. I'm not, who knows? But they've been doing this wide receiver committee. I feel like this is a team that would like to have an alpha, despite what they say. They keep saying we like to spread the ball around. We, I hate the term alpha receiver. I forget what the LaFleur quote was. He doesn't want to have a top dog, he says, but I think that if he has a talented top dog who is clearly the best, I think they're just going to let him be the best and give him the best opportunities. I think that could happen with Golden this year. So I like it quite a bit. I want to get ahead of him if he is the top dog here. He's only 6,400, not getting a ton of ownership. So Golden is one that I'm going to be trying to get above the field on. Dontavian Wicks, 3,600 projected for 11% flex ownership, 0% captain ownership. Wicks, 47.8% route participation last week. Did you know he led the team in targets last year? Just couldn't catch them. That's his issue. Just not the best hands in the NFL. This kind of route participation, big play upside for Wicks. Talented in other ways. I think I like Wicks a bit here. Again, only 2 targets last week, but given the 11% ownership, we just saw Quentin Johnston. You don't have to have the best hands in the business to put up a big score. He's only 3,600. I'll bet on Wicks's ability to put up a splash play or two and pay off in a big way. So I do like Wicks here. Heath, again, if the projections give me some Heath or Savion Williams, that's fine. Heath is only 200, and actually he actually ran some routes last week. 17.4% route participation last week. Didn't see a target. That's only four routes, by the way, from Malik Heath last week. It's maybe he's a little bit more involved this week, but they have a lot of mouths to feed here. He is the wide receiver 5 on the Packers. I'm not super excited to play Malik Heath, but he's only 200. So it is possible that even without a touchdown, if he just has a catch, he might be the $200 player you need to get the best lineup. So I think he's a fine play, but not somebody that I'm going to force into a ton of lineups. Just kind of a salary relief play. Obviously, if he scores a touchdown, I think it's likely that you're going to want Malik Heath. But yeah, not a priority for me. All right, that's it as far as the receivers go. Let me check in with chat. Before I move on to tight ends. Thank you, Brett. Good to see you all here. A lot of people coming in here. Yes, we can play both JCM and Austin Eckler. I think like if you just want to bet on the Commanders being able to run tonight, I think it's totally fine to play both of them. So I'm trying to scroll up to get a lot of these questions. No way JCM is. Yeah, this is my thought also. Who Hames? Yeah, everybody agreeing. Okay, that was my virgin poll. All my polls are virgin polls. That's funny. Hulk smash. Adam, I think Adam is going to play a ton of JCM tonight. All right. Let's see. Yes. Thank God. DFS is back. That's an interesting thought. Bulk thinks there's a chance that JCM gets passing work like Eckler. I'm not convinced that that's true. I think that they kind of have their better roles, but maybe it holds, and He had one target. Yeah, big concerns about Reed's health. I don't know. We'll see. The Twitter doctors that I've read are concerned about him, so I'm concerned about him. All right. Sorry, I'm gonna start going quicker here through the chat. Kickers I'm gonna get to. Talked about Heath. All right. I do like Jalen Lane a bit. I think he's a little bit underowned. All right, let's move on to tight ends here. I thought there was a question that somebody had asked before that I was going to look for, and now I forgot what the question was. I did not find it just now, so apologies for that. But tight ends, we have Zach Ertz on the Commanders. All reliable. Zach Ertz is 5,800, projected for 24% flex ownership, 1% captain ownership. Last week, pretty involved. Ran 70.3% route participation, 5 targets for Zach Ertz. It was not a particularly strong matchup for tight ends last year against this Packers defense. I don't think it's like an elite matchup this year either, but I think it's totally fine. I think it's kind of a middling matchup. Zach Ertz, if he scores a touchdown, you probably want him at this price tag, which is the case for a lot of us, a lot of these players, to be honest. I think he's a fine play. I don't think that he stands out as like a must play. I'm going to kind of get what the Sims give me on Zach Ertz. 24%, again, 25% total ownership on Zach Ertz feels about right. I think the price tag is fair on Ertz. He's involved enough, but we have enough players that I really like in his price range that I'm not going to force it. I'm kind of just going to allow it into my lineups where he comes. If I got like under 10%, I would probably force in more of Zach Ertz. But if I get anywhere between like 10 and 40%, I think I'll just accept that number. I think he's a perfectly cromulent play. I don't have much more to say about Zach Ertz. John Bates. Adam and I talked about this earlier a bit. Like he's on the field. He's playing a lot of snaps week to week. Here, I'll bring up the snap share report for the Commanders. 55.4% snap share last week. Now, he only ran 21.6% of the routes, didn't see a target last week, but being out on the field at his price tag, like he could just, randomly get open for a touchdown at some point, or just a reception. And he's only 600. I think that he is a totally fine play. You could have 3 receptions in a game, and that's going to pay off his $600 price tag. So I think John Bates is fine, not projected for any ownership. He's another one that I'm probably not going to force into my lineups, but I'll allow whatever I get. Happy to get to a little bit of John Bates. On the other side, we have Tucker Kraft is 5,400, projected for 46% flex ownership, 6% captain ownership. It's a bit much in my opinion, and I like Tucker Kraft. I think that he is a strong tight end. I think he's a dog out there. 73.9% route participation last week, led the Packers. So he actually led the team in route participation, had 4 targets. I mean, would you want to play a player at this much ownership who's getting 4 targets? I think that's a bit much for Tucker Kraft. So I'm going to be underweight to the 52% total ownership that the field is getting to with Kraft. I don't mind the 6% captain ownership, but the 46% flex ownership is just a little bit too much to me. I saw a quote in passing that the team is kind of focused on Tucker Kraft tonight, that the Commanders defense is paying attention to Tucker Kraft tonight. So make of that, if anybody can find that quote. I just saw it in passing, but it kind of made me think, I don't love that. I don't love that for Tucker Kraft. If the Commanders defense is going to make him a focal point, I don't know. If I get to 40%, that's probably fine with me. I don't think I want more than 50% Tucker Kraft in my lineups. By the way, this is speaking of ownership, this is a good time to note. Run the Sims actually has an update where they now show your exposure right on Run the Sims, which is really cool. I don't have to go back and forth on DraftKings anymore. You can see it right in Run the Sims, which I am pretty excited about. Oh, it was somebody earlier asked me if I'm going to do any FanDuel. I'll take a brief look at FanDuel, just in Roto Grinders. I'll look at the ownership and just give you my instincts on FanDuel. I'm not going to do a deep dive there like I do on DraftKings, because a lot of the same information applies. So I'm not going to go over everything again, but I'll just take a quick look at FanDuel ownership and prices and let you know what I think of FanDuel. Thoughts on removing 5-1s to trim some percentage? Also, if Daniel is going to be 25% captain, how can I play him while being different with an opto, or just overplay him? I would not remove 5-1s. I think 5-1s are actually a great way to get different. People don't like to play the 5-1s that much. So I think 5-1s are actually a really strong type of lineup in general. There are plenty of ways to get different, though. You can play Daniels in the captain spot with the Packers defense in the lineup as a way to get different. I think just overstacking the Commanders, playing Daniels with Zach Ertz and Jalen Lane and Terry McLaurin, or whatever combo. I don't think a lot of people are going to be overstacking the Commanders. So I think there are plenty of ways that you can play Daniels in the captain spot and then still get different from the field. I wouldn't be too concerned about that. I've never set a total ownership restriction. I just I play a lot of the low owned guys, and I set other restrictions like cap on salary, stuff like that. So I tend to play pretty unduped lineups anyway without setting any kind of ownership restriction. Pull other levers instead. All right. And because I'm getting to a high percentage of those lower owned players, I think I end with a kind of a low cap on a lot of my lineups. Not a cap, I guess, but I end with a lot of low owned lineups anyway, historically. John Fitzpatrick and Luke Musgrave. John Fitzpatrick might be the better play here. I mean, they're projected the exact same, both not projected for any ownership. Fitzpatrick last week actually ran 21.7% of the routes, saw one target. Musgrave also saw one target on 13% of the routes. Musgrave a little bit more expensive. Honestly, it just comes down to who is going to score. If one of them scores a touchdown, you'd probably want them at these price tags, but you'd almost certainly want, or not almost certainly, but you would be more likely to want John Fitzpatrick if he scores a touchdown than Luke Musgrave if he scores a touchdown, because of the price savings. So yeah, slight tiebreaker there to John Fitzpatrick. Neither of them is a priority for me. If they make it into my lineups, I'm fine with it. Not super excited about either. All right. Moving on to defenses and kickers. Matt Gay projected for 13% flex ownership, 1% captain ownership. Commanders defense projected for 9% flex ownership, 0% captain ownership. Brandon McManus projected for 16% flex ownership, 1% captain ownership. Green Bay Packers 7 and 0. This is a tough game to get excited about the defenses, just because I think it's going to be a pretty high scoring game. Particularly, I struggle to want to play the Packers defense. I think you can make a case for the Commanders defense. I think that it's just a pretty good defense, and they're both low owned. I'm not taking a big stand on the defenses. If I get 20% of one, great, I'll accept it. I don't hate it, but I think I probably end up with pretty low exposure to the defenses. I do like the kickers, however. I do think with the new rules in the NFL, with the kickoff rules, teams are going to get the ball close to field goal range. So even if a team struggles moving the ball, they might be able to score some field goals this year, given how far up, the 35-yard line, you get the ball at the 35-yard line, or just, there are going to be more kickoff returns where teams advance it up further than they have in the past. So I think with the new kickoff rules, kickers do become more valuable in general. This is something that I haven't really factored in a ton so far. Should credit Cody Main for pointing this out. I think it's a really good point that kickers are just going to be more valuable in general this year. And I think I'm going to lean into it and just play more of the kickers than the defenses in this game. There are going to be other games like on Monday where I loved one of the defenses. I thought it was just a strong spot for a defense that was going under-owned. But these are, pretty established offenses that have good chemistry. I think the defenses are good, totally cromulent plays, but not priorities. Whereas I do think the kickers stand out as better plays before the field starts playing more of them, when we're expecting them to potentially score more points in general this year. So I do think Brandon McManus and Matt Gay, pretty strong plays at relatively low ownership year. Kicker price tags came up last year, and they paid off quite a bit last year. And I think it's just going to happen even more this year than it did last year. So yeah, I think I'd like to have 20% plus of both kickers. We'll see what the Sims give me. I don't know if I'm going to force my way to that much, but I would like to have a fair amount of exposure to both of these kickers. I think they're fairly strong plays. All right. Going to move on to building lineups, taking questions. I'm going to be joined in about 10 minutes by Brian Hooper of Run the Sims. I will go over FanDuel real quickly here before Brian joins. And thank you for the reminder, Sean. Yeah, please do hit the like button. Would appreciate it. And subscribe to the channel if you are not already subscribed. Very helpful for me. Trying to get over 6,000 subscribers by the end of the NFL season. I believe I just got to, I think I'm up to 4,900 possibly by now. So we're close to 5,000. We're within 100 to 5,000, but not quite there yet. All right. Looking at FanDuel really quickly, because I know some of you like to play there. And it's a new format this year. It's pretty interesting. They now have the multiplier in the MVP spot. Jaden Daniels projected for 35% MVP ownership. No issue there. Josh Jacobs, 20%. No issue there. Jordan Love, 17%. I'm guessing I come in a little bit underweight there. Terry McLaurin, 3%. Absolutely love that for Terry McLaurin. I think that is a fantastic MVP play on FanDuel. 4% Deebo Samuel. I think that's fine. Actually don't hate 2% Jaden Reed. He's kind of a boom bust play. I'm in general a little bit unexcited about playing Jaden Reed, a little bit nervous about him, but when he hits, can hit in a big way. So don't hate that. Ja'Cory Croskey-Merritt and Austin Eckler both around 2%. I think they're probably better MVP plays than flex plays in general. I'll take a look at the ownership in flex, but I think both are cromulent there. I actually think the kickers, like McManus at 1%, if this game ends up being kind of low scoring, kickers could work out on FanDuel. It's a little bit easier for them to work out because it's half PPR. Golden seems pretty good. Yeah. And then in the flex, again, Daniel Jacobs, just strong plays in general. McLaurin, I mean, under 20% seems good in the flex also. Yeah, both the Commanders running backs around 20%. Seems okay. No real strong take there. Kickers these price tags seem so high to me. I can't wrap my head around these price tags. It makes sense for them to be more expensive on FanDuel where it's half PPR. But I don't think I'm that excited about it. Golden at 5,600. I do like that quite a bit. 16% ownership. Dobbs is cheap here also. Wicks at 3,600 again, 11% owned, so kind of the same play as DraftKings. Noah Brown at 3,200. A lot of the same price tags. That's interesting. 13% projected ownership for Noah Brown. I think I like that. Do we have anybody super low owned? I mean, I don't have anybody that's like super low owned on FanDuel that I'm a huge fan of. Willie Keith at 1,000, 1% owned is a pretty strong play, I think. Yeah, I don't have any like true plays that I really love at really low ownership. I think Noah Brown stands out as a pretty good one. Actually, Romeo Dobbs at only 21% here. I like that. That actually stands out. He's way higher owned on DraftKings. I kind of glossed over it, but that's really low ownership for a $4,200 Romeo Dobbs. So that does stand out to me as a really, really good play on FanDuel. All right, that's how I'm seeing it on FanDuel. Let me check back in. We think JCM's getting 2 touchdowns tonight. I'd play him in your captain if you think that. All right. Oh, is this? Yeah. Brandon says it was Jay Fowler posted the Tucker Craft quote, quoting a Washington middle linebacker saying that they were paying attention to Tucker Craft. That is totally what I saw. I thought this was a D's nuts joke, but I think he's talking about Debo. I think Debo's a totally fine captain. What's he projected for? 11% captain ownership. I like Terry better, just because he's getting less than half the projected ownership of Debo. But I think Debo is, totally strong captain play. All right, so I'm going to start running the Sims here. You guys can ask any questions. Brian's going to be here soon, but I want to get these going so that I make sure I get my lineups in. So how I like to do this, I'm not going to make any changes to anything first. I want to see what gets spit out of the Sims before I change anything. I am going to change just the settings to be the settings that I like for my lineup. So I'm going to do 25,000 lineup simmed against options. I'm going to do a 15,000 lineup field, and then I'm going to sim it 10,000 times. I'm going to sim it as a top heavy exposure because the contests I play are all pretty top heavy. And then I'm going to use the Shady Portfolio Diversifier. Actually, let me pull up DraftKings. See how many lineups I'm playing. Okay, I'm playing 181 lineups tonight. Just going to download that file. Go back to run the Sims, and I'm going to change the Shady Portfolio Optimizer to 181. For anybody who doesn't know what this is Shady Advice's Portfolio Optimizer. It's going to give you a diverse set of lineups that are all plus EV, but they're not going to be too similar to each other in general, so they're not going to cannibalize each other a ton. I found it to be pretty awesome to spread out my lineups quite a bit. And now I'm going to click the SimRunner Pro button, and it's going to take a couple minutes. Now you can see where you're at in the Sims here. I need to make sure there we go. So you can see it. You need a Niels Nobody. All right, let's see. I think Noah Brown probably would be my Niels Nobody because everybody's playing Romeo Dobbs. So fewer are going to play Noah Brown. He's not like a super nobody. He's projected for like 13% ownership, I think. If you wanted to go super low, man, it's tough. There aren't honestly great nobodies tonight. I guess Jalen Lane is probably the closest. Yeah, I guess it would be Jalen Lane. Is if you want somebody who's under 10% projected ownership, Jalen Lane is probably that guy for me. Fun rookie, got some speed, should be out there. 35% routes last week. Who knows? Maybe he earns a bigger role. Oh, Brian is here. All right. What's going on, Brian?
Hey. How you doing?
I'm doing well. How are you doing? Got your lineups in?
What's that?
Got your lineups in?
I got my lineups in.
I'm excited that I can see my exposures now right on Run the Sims. Save me a step.
Yeah, I'll show you how that works too. We're high on Jaden Daniels, so unless you made some changes, I'm assuming you're going to get a decent amount of Jaden Daniels. I also want to show you something since you're streaming and time is important.
Yep.
Now that you did this first run, how many lineups did you build here? Like 25,000 or something?
Yep.
Okay. See what the total number is that it gives you, because it depends on the slate. But like if a lineup keeps getting duped, like as it's building these lineups, it's not going to give you 25,000. It'll give you like, 12,000 or something, because a lot of lineups were duped and they're not going to show them to you twice. So if that's the case, then you could just, that's like, you don't really need to build 25,000. You could build like 15.
Okay.
You're going to get them anyways. You're going to get all the combos.
Okay. That's good to know.
Yeah. But some slates you might want to go up.
Right.
Tonight, I noticed like it left a decent amount of salary on the table. So there might not be, we'll see. I don't even know what it's going to spit for you, but we'll see. What was the other? I heard you say somebody was talking about. Oh, Lou Dog was talking about ownership caps or something. I would probably in this go to the filters afterwards. Like I said on the last time I was on here, I don't like doing constraints when using a sim because I want to like run it fast and then filter afterwards. That's just the way I do it. And I would rather filter using the dupes.
Yep, me too.
And the dupes is because it's more slate dependent. So I would do it like Neil's doing it. I would run it once, then I'd go over to the dupes column and look where the dupes are kind of in the top, whatever, if you're using shadies, whatever your shady is, you're doing 180 or whatever. Or if you just have 150 EV, what are the dupes around there? What's the median or the highest? And then I would set, and then I would just go lower than that. So like if the highest is like, if it's around like the 20s, 30s, 40s or something, then I might set it like max 30 and just get rid of some of the higher ones. Because I'm assuming your ownership, what you're trying to do is dupe less.
Right.
Because the combos should all be taken care of in the sim.
Yeah. Billy asked, does it typically take this long to run? Only when you do this many lineups that I did.
Yeah. And also today, for some reason, I think it's just the slate for some reason. It's almost done here.
Yeah.
For some reason, it's taking a while. It usually doesn't take this long. And on FanDuel, it was like way faster.
When I did the main slate, I found it to be way faster than
main slate's way faster too.
Yeah.
But we are going to optimize. We were doing some other stuff to make it better, like the exposures thing. I'll show you here in a second. But we're going to make it much faster. We just had a meeting about this. Me, Dan, and one of the coders. Dan's an expert in that. So.
Nice. Yeah. I trust it's going to continue to improve as we go. So a lot of pretty nice EV lineups here. We got Jaden Daniels at the top with Zach Ertz and Austin Eckler in the top lineup. Brandon McManus, Josh Jacobs, Matt Gay. A lot of really strong EV here. But you can see, by the way, for anybody who doesn't know, this is in the shady order, so it's not ordered by EV. If you don't do the shady optimizer, then you just get them in the order of the EV. If you want to just like pick and choose from the top EV lineups, that's how you would do that instead. So this is the number of lineups I got, 59. So this is one where I could just run, 10,000 next time instead of 25,000.
Did it? Yeah. How many did it give you? Yeah, 6,000.
Yeah.
Yeah. Just do the 10 or 15.
Yeah. Okay. Easy.
And that might be different each time. I don't know.
And now the new thing on Run the Sims, which I'm excited about, you can see your player exposures. And if I go, and the cool thing is, so now it shows you in just the top 150 lineups you do your exposures. It also shows you your shady exposure. So because I did 181 lineups, so that's my actual lineups at the top there. That's what this is the one that I'm going to be using for my actual exposure, right, Brad?
Yes, and filtered too, which is in between those two. So whatever, if you like change it up and start, putting constraints on there like ownership or salaries or locking a player, that'll show you you're filtered, whatever you filter by.
Nice. So I can see here I'm getting to a ton of Jaden Daniels, 59% in the flex, 39% at captain of Jaden Daniels. Just goes to show how good of a play he is. Josh Jacobs, 54% flex, 33% captain. So those are the two players that I wanted to get a lot of. So that's good to see. Not a ton of Jordan Love. So a lot of this is kind of in line with what I want to be playing.
You could filter by position there too.
I didn't even see that. That's really cool.
Which makes it a little easier to digest. And just so like filtered to like if you type in 181, filtered will match shady, for example.
Okay.
Right?
Okay. Let's see.
So you filter down to the top 181 lineups, which is your shady portfolio.
Yeah.
So you go back to player exposures. It should match. The shady in the filtered are identical.
Yeah.
Now, if you like even change off of shady, that'll change.
Nice. No, that's cool. I didn't realize you could do it by position. That's actually really helpful for me because it's more closely aligned with the optimizers I used to use. I can it's easier for me to adjust for sure. Go in position by position. All right, so what do I want to change here? I like that Eckler exposure. Oh, and I've got both on, I see. I'm not getting to a ton of Ja'Cory Croskey-Merritt. It's interesting to me, Brian, because Ja'Cory Croskey-Merritt, I was thinking that your ownership numbers are probably a little bit low, the numbers that you have at Run the Sims, which I know you import those numbers from elsewhere. But to me, I think just like the hype is so high. Do you think I should see any big difference if I change the ownership number up for Ja'Cory Croskey-Merritt and down for Austin Eckler? Do you think that'll change what I get all that much?
If you up his ownership, his flex, let's say, you'll get less of him.
That was kind of my assumption too.
Yeah.
Nice. So
It
I think
depends
I
on
will
how
do
much
that.
you up him and how you change the other guy. So like if you lower Eckler's and raise his, you probably should just get more Eckler than you have there and a little bit less of Bill.
Is there any way? And I was saying that I think I would have to run multiple sims to make this work. But if I think that Terry McLaurin is a particularly good captain play, but like I want to be like over the field and captain, under the field in the flex or something like that. There's no real way to try to get that in just one run of sims, is there?
Well, you can't really do it in the sim process. You kind of probably have to do that in the filtering process.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Okay.
And we're adding that next, where you can just put your percentage what you want.
Cool.
Problem is though, well, we might be able to do it because we're also going to add where you can rerun it and throw it again at Shady if you want to.
Okay.
But you got to remember, like, this is getting the info to Shady, then he's sending it back to us. So if you make changes, it would change the order that he sent them, which you might not want. But I would probably just like raise his TD percentage, his TD share.
Yep.
If I wanted more, it's the easiest way. And like I was saying to you in chat the other day, like if for defense, I would just raise the sack percentage if I wanted more D.
Right. Wait, am I reading this right? Shady flex 10.8% Romeo Dobbs.
You got it.
Okay. It just seems like it's so close in the bar over here looks close to Deebo Samuel. That's not a lot of Romeo Dobbs.
Bar means I think is like the total ownership or something.
Oh, okay.
Like total ownership versus optimal or something like that.
Honestly,
I don't know.
So I mean that's a really low number for
Can
Romeo
you
Dobbs.
hover over that bar? I didn't even bother. Did it say anything?
Doesn't do anything.
It's just to look pretty.
Yeah. Kickers, I get 75% Matt Gay, 30.8% Brandon McManus. So a lot of the kickers.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Ricky D Jr. over here.
Yeah. We'll see. I haven't made any adjustments yet. So that's gonna be the next thing I do is make some adjustments. I'm getting a 35% Zach Ertz, 7% Tucker Kraft. Kind of interesting. And then defense is 25% of the Packers defense, 1% of the Commanders defense. That's okay. That's interesting. I was kind of expecting the opposite, that I get more of the Commanders defense. Pretty interesting to see that. So I haven't done anything to the inputs yet. So now if I want to change the inputs a bit, I think one thing that I want more of is the Commanders in general. I think I want a little bit more. I think I have a little bit much of the defense there for the Packers. So I think if I increase the Commanders score, I would imagine I'm going to get some more here.
Yeah, you'll get a little more. Yeah.
Bring the pace up slightly.
Yeah, you got it.
I think so. I'm getting so much of Jaden Daniels. I think I'm actually going to bring his rushing share down.
Okay.
And should I smart adjust everything? I mean, you're saying that I should just
probably. Yeah.
So I'm gonna bring down Jaden Daniels' rushing market share a bit, and then I'm gonna bring up Austin Eckler's a little bit.
Yeah. Or you could just normalize and it'll do it for you. But
yeah, but like I want to make sure that I'm getting a higher proportion of Austin Eckler rather than Ja'Cory Croskey-Merritt.
Got it.
I'm also going to change the ownership a little bit here. So I'm going to bring up Ja'Cory Croskey-Merritt to 20%, bring down Eckler to 19%.
Yeah. You're going to get like no Bill.
Sad. I don't think I want that. Maybe I'm going to change my mind here. I'll bring Bill back down a little bit to 16% and Eckler up to 23%. I do want more Terry, so I'm going to give him a higher market share. And in general, Brian, would you recommend not doing what I'm doing, where I'm making a ton of changes and just kind of trusting the numbers? Okay.
Yeah. If you have takes, you should do it. I mean, you kind of have to. Like, everyone has access to awesome tools now, so
Yeah.
you have to kind of know ball and combine it with the tools the best you can. At this point, 3 years ago, if you had good tools you could make yourself, you could win. If you knew ball, you could win. Now you kind of have to have both, in my opinion.
Yeah. And then on the Packers side, man, I was getting so much of the Packers defense.
Shady is chilling his product in chat.
Oh, nice. I mean, I like the product. I like the package here, the whole package here.
I'm kidding.
Oh, all right. Promo code Neil, by the way, 10%
There
off
you
your
go.
first payment. Josh Jacobs, getting to a ton of Josh Jacobs. I'm a little bit nervous about the offensive line there, but I think I'm going to accept it. I like Matthew Golden quite a bit. I'm slightly nervous about how little I'm getting of Romeo Doubs, just given how well he projects.
Maybe that ownership. What do you think that ownership might be a little high? What did I put him at? Nah, I am. Well, what did I have, Matt?
I'm gonna move him down.
Yeah, I think that might. Yeah, move him down.
40% owned.
Yeah.
I'm gonna bring. Who do I want to change here? Kraft? No, because I like getting Kraft also. I'm gonna bring.
Distribute it normally.
Oh yeah, you're right. I could just do that. Smart guy. All right. I'm gonna run. I'm gonna see what happens here.
Well, yeah, come.
Because now I'm gonna be. Oh, I need to shoot. Well, it's too late now. I meant to change my settings because now I'm doing 25,000 again. I think you'll be surprised what the diversifier will do, even with higher ownership. All right. I mean, so far in very small sample size, I've been really happy with my distribution of lineups. So I'm willing to trust it. I'd be nervous if Romeo Doubs has like an awesome game here, but I guess that's kind of the risk you take anyway in these slates.
Well, you lowered his ownership. It'll probably be.
Yeah, I did. So maybe I'll get a little bit more now.
Yeah, well, but you also upped all of Washington. So, who knows Who knows? We'll see.
Yeah. Anton says, if the Commanders are going to focus more on Kraft, wouldn't Musgrave be a natural pivot at cheaper and much? But he's just not going to be on the field enough. Like, I don't think that the focus on Kraft is going to mean that they use two tight ends more. And Musgrave only ran 13% of the routes last week. But yeah, I mean, I love that this streamlines the process quite a bit to not have to go back and forth on DraftKings. Really glad to see that update in there.
I can answer Steve's question for Shady.
Oh yeah.
Yes, there will be soon enough a way to do that.
I wondered if you guys intentionally took that option away because you were worried about people screwing it up.
Kinda, that and time.
Yeah,
like trying to get. We have so much stuff we want to add and do. It's hard to fit it all in there. And then each change you make has like a little bug you need to fix and stuff.
Brian, I forgot to bring you in, and I didn't gloat immediately about my Minnesota Vikings crushing your Chicago Bears hearts. You, as the number one Bears fan in Chicago, I'm sure that was heartbreaking for you.
It was, yeah. Even though I fell asleep in the fourth quarter,
you didn't watch it.
Yeah, man, you must have. I bet you had a whirlwind of emotions there going from that first half to that second half, huh?
I did.
Yeah.
And on top of, I'm a Vikings fan, but I'm also lifetime fantasy football. I mean, I've been playing fantasy football a long time. At this point, I'm not like a total laundry bro. I care about the Vikings winning, but also this year, my finance is also very much invested in JJ McCarthy. So for him to go from looking like, oh my God, this is terrible, to looking like a dog, that was fun.
That's funny. The Caleb's performance was like the first time I was like, maybe we're gonna have to have a short leash with the number one pick.
Yeah,
I mean, I'm still not there yet, but I was like, oh man, High expectations this year. The first like 15 plays look pretty good, and then
that seems to be the general consensus is the Ben Johnson, like the first like scripted 15 plays are awesome, and then from there, when they have to go a little bit deeper, it gets tougher. Yeah, it's interesting. Sean asks, Neil, I'm going to put you on the spot with Brian. How much have you won using The Sims as of now? Nothing. I haven't won anything yet. I've only played 1 week of DFS. That's kind of the expectation.
Yeah.
Like you're gonna lose most weeks. I've been happy with the results so far. Like I haven't been getting crushed on any slates, and I've had sweats on I think literally every slate. Maybe not the main slate, but literally every showdown slate. I've had a pretty good sweat so far. So I'm really happy with the results. I've lost less than I do like historically most weeks. I would lose more than I have been losing, but I just haven't taken one down yet. I actually had a day where I had 64th and 67th. I had the 67th lineup it was the minimax was completely unique, and 64th just duped one way. And so I was like, man, I was pretty damn close. So I'm happy with how it's going, but no, I haven't won money yet.
And anyone who thinks they're gonna, we got bot ban that.
Yeah.
Anyone who thinks they're gonna buy a product and then win, that's not gonna happen. It's not how it works. The pricing too, by the way, like the higher monthly ones are for people who play seriously and bet a lot of money. If you're only betting, $50 or $100 or something like that, don't sign up for those. But there is a $25 level that I think is really solid. You get all the projections. You could sim up to 5 lineups, the optimizer, and we added today the overlay. So the projections will overlay on Underdog or FanDuel or DraftKings, and you could hand build lineups with the projection.
Oh, cool. Which I didn't download that in time before the stream.
Put that on there.
Yeah, I'll have to do that another time.
Because we're going to add exposures on there too. So you could just see it right next to the player, along with the projections already on there. And it's free. It comes with the NFL if you sub to any of the NFL packages.
Nice. Did you see this comment from Charlie? Charlie said, I used it and won a single entry last week. It was nuts. I legit made 1 entry. So Charlie won using The Sims. It's cool to see. This is a funny comment from Brendan says, I love Brick joining in just to sweat whether or not you get to one more crunch before that is kind of every time you come on, it's like, all right, we're gonna watch Neil sweat getting his lineups in.
Yeah. I would say at this point, if you do one more, just do the 10,000.
Oh, for sure. I meant to do it this time. I just forgot to change my settings. If I do one more, which I probably won't even bother at this point, but we'll see.
We'll see what it spits out. Oh, did you change the kickers at all?
I did not change the kickers.
Yeah. Did you like that kicker ownership? I wonder what mine.
No, it makes me nervous. I do want to get a lot of the kickers, but that ownership number does make me a little bit nervous.
Yeah.
I went over the kickers. So this is a point that Cody Main made, and I thought it was a good one. That kickers are probably going to score more points this year because of the kickoff rules. Like they get the ball at the 35. They're almost in field goal range, like immediately if you get the ball at the 35, and then they're more likely to take the ball out. So in general, I do think kickers are likely to score more points this year. So probably a sharp thing to do to try to get a little bit more of the kickers.
Yeah, I have a lot of them too. So
yeah,
maybe it's kicker day. Maybe we're all Ricky D.
Maybe we are. Maybe that is maybe Ricky D was just using Run the Sims the whole time.
He took the money and run that one.
Yeah. Is he done? Is he not playing anymore?
I think pretty much, yeah.
I think I speak for all NFL DFS players when I say good riddance.
Is he playing NFL? I didn't really even look.
Yeah, I haven't
He
checked.
might be playing NFL. I know one of the Chipotle brothers is done.
Oh, really?
Mm-hmm.
Jeez.
Yep.
All right, I'm starting to get sweaty here.
What's the kickoff today? 7:20?
7:15.
Oh, you're fine. You're fine.
Yeah, it's calculating payouts, which this is the last step before the diversifier, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It is taking long today, though.
This is more than
we're gonna work on it.
It's longer than it was earlier in the day too, because I did a video earlier and it was only taking a couple minutes, 3 minutes maybe. I don't know. Okay, diversifying payouts. We're good. Plenty of time here.
You're good. You're good.
Can you tell the sim? Yes, you can tell the sim to leave a certain amount on the table. You can do it before or after you run the sims. You can tell it to give you a lineup set, leave salary on the table. Maybe should I set a filter here before I export it, like to try to avoid the most duped? Got a few minutes.
Well, then you're not gonna get all the shadies.
I know that's the thing. It's like the part of the nice thing about the diversifier is you're going to get a mix of risk involved in your lineup.
I would just get these 181 in right now, and then
and then we can talk about it. Yeah, no, I will. All right, Brian, I came so close, so I'm gonna download these right away. Download 181 lineups, put them into DraftKings, and then I'll come back and look at it.
And then come back and if you Matt Gay.
Yeah, it's a lot. It is a lot of Matt Gay. I can see that already. Yep.
Matthew Golden has a good Madden card. That's always a good sign.
Oh, does he?
Mm-hmm.
That is a good sign. All right, let's see here. Give me a second. I forgot that I had earlier. I apparently entered on DraftKings in the wrong order, so my highest dollar lineups are at the bottom, which I don't. So I like to change that. So I'm going to.
He's got McLaurin in the 9th lineup at least. There, TTID forever. How much McLaurin did I get? I didn't get a lot of McLaurin myself, 15%.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
All right, hang on.
He's pretty expensive.
All right. Cutting these. Plenty of time here. Plenty of time.
You're still copying and pasting?
Yeah, I'm rearranging my.
Yeah, you gotta do that earlier. I
did do it earlier, and then I re-downloaded the whole thing right now, and it's a whole thing.
Okay.
But yeah, I should have done this earlier.
Yeah.
All right.
This is why you don't stream and do your DFS, people.
It's a bad idea. I got to tell you, it's not a good idea.
No.
All right. I am almost ready now, though, to come back to it. I mean, I'm probably just going to take the lineups that it gave me anyway. But I could. Filtering, I think, is pretty quick.
Yeah, it is.
So if I wanted to just filter,
just look how many of the shadies does it get rid of if you filter.
Yeah. Yep.
If you only wanted Scary Terry and Captain, you just go up to that Captain and type his name in, and it'll give you all the top Scary Terry Captain lineups.
Yep. All right, here we go. Easy game. All right, we've got the lineups in. I'm going to come back and take a look at my exposures. So now these are going to be final. I've got 57% Jaden Daniels in the flex, 38% in the captain spot. So that is 95% total Jaden Daniels. Only 25% Jordan Love. Fine with that. Running back, we've got 86.5% Josh Jacobs in total. Ooh, man, I'm up to 39% Austin Eckler in the flex. I'm still at 20. So I
you went up on Bill.
I adjusted back. I think it's because I gave them more points.
Yeah.
So I adjusted some other things, but yeah. So yeah, I'm happy with that. Getting a lot of the running backs in general. Only 1% Chris Brooks. Wouldn't have minded a little bit more, but he was not a huge priority for me. I only have 4% Terry, a captain. I'm fine with it. Whatever. 27% in the flex. Would have liked more there, but I'm not going to make any adjustments. 32% flex Debo, 2% captain. Still not a ton of Romeo Dobbs. So only 21% total Romeo Dobbs. Were you similar there?
Let me look. Noah Brown, I was definitely high on too.
Nice. Yeah, I like Noah Brown a lot tonight.
Who'd you say Dobbs?
Dobbs, yeah.
No, I wasn't getting a ton of Dobbs, but I had him a decently high ownership.
Yep.
What'd you get, Adam? 16? Oh yeah, I was just a little under you.
Okay. Yeah. Only 18% Golden. I maybe would have wanted to get a little bit more there. I don't have a ton of Reed, which is a pretty big risk, but a risk that I'm generally okay with.
Yeah, that's a fade, huh?
Yeah.
That is a fade.
He is. I'm still at 70% Matt Gay, 29% Brandon McManus. So that's interesting. That'll be I'll be sweating the kickers. Let's go kickers tonight. 31% Zach Ertz, 6% Tucker Kraft. Defense. Okay, so I'm way down now. Packers down to 17% ownership. Commanders 1%. So yeah, kickers over defenses tonight. That's the stand. Okay. Trying to get rid of the damn bot, and I instead put it on the screen.
Promoting them.
Now I can't even find. Oh, there we go.
We were definitely low on the defense totals. I think, Washington especially.
Yeah. All right, we are at lock. This is fun. Thanks for joining, Brian. Do you have anything you want to shout out before we get out of here?
No, promo code Neil at Run the Sims.
Promo code Neil, 10% off your first payment, whichever product. Good luck, everybody. Thank you very much for joining us tonight. We're going to get out of here and watch the games. Catch you later.